Hi everyone, and welcome back to Constant Culture. Today we're going to show you how to make some cuttings to propagate some new plants. Here's some cuttings that I took from a lily-pilly hedge that's outside of our house here in the city, and we're propagating some so we can make a hedge out at the farm. So we start with a fair size cutting, and you need to cut the lower branches from it. And it's a good idea to start this cutting with a node towards the bottom. A node is where the leaves start to, you can see that the leaves start to grow out. Cut any lower branches from it, and then make sure that you leave a node at the top or have some little branches coming out of the top. So here, this has several branches coming off it, so we're just going to go snip and snip and snip. So we're just taking off most of the leaves, and even the leaves that we leave on, oh, that one's one that escaped, even the leaves that we leave on, you want to probably cut those in half and minimize those a lot as well, because plants lose moisture through transpiration through their leaves, and you don't want them losing too much moisture when they're going to be working on growing some new roots. So here's a perfect cutting there. It's almost the size or the width of a pencil, probably a little bit on the thin side, could have been a tiny little bit thicker, but that one should be fine. Now this is about, probably about 20 centimeters tall. Here's some others I got off a bit earlier. This one didn't have any leaves left on it, but I'm going to give that a try. And these two, well, that one has a leaf on it. It's a bit smaller than this one, but it should be fine. This one I think is probably a bit small, a bit narrow, a bit spindly, but I'm going to give it a go and just see what happens. Probably need to take a few more of those leaves off since it hasn't got a lot of stem on it. So I'm going to try and plant all of those and just see what happens. Here are some little paper pots that I made in an earlier video because I forgot to bring some pots back from my country house to the city house. So we're just going to plant into these for today. So I've got the potting mix, it's wet in there. I'm taking a chopstick. You could use a pencil, just a stick from the yard, or even just a bit that you've cut off. And this is called a dibble. Anything you use to make the hole in the soil is called a dibble. And you just poke it in fairly deep, probably about 2/3 down to make the hole. So that way you're not forcing the bottom of your cutting into the potting mixture where you might damage that bottom. So just put it in so it's nice and sturdy, press it down, put it into the moist potting mix. It's a good idea to mix the potting mix with a bit of sand to make it more free draining. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that available right now, so we're just going to put it into the potting mix and see how we go. They should be fine. Lily-pilly's cuttings take fairly well, so in this pot, I thought, since I'm not too sure about these cuttings, I thought I'm just going to put all three of them into the one pot and see what happens. That's the beauty of propagating your own plants. If they're not going to cost you any money to do it, you can really afford to take chances and give things a try and see how they go. Now, if you end up with cuttings like this that don't have any leaves on them, just be really aware as to which way is up, because if you plant your cutting upside down, it's not going to grow. So make sure you know which way is up. A lot of plants will have where you've taken the leaves off or the little branchlets, they'll be pointing upwards, but some plants don't have that little clue, so just be careful. So we'll put that into there, press them down firmly so that they're not going to wobble around too much like this one is at the moment. What I'll probably do is, since I've put some water on that potting mix, the level has gone down, so it's all compressed down with the moisture, so I'll probably top it up a bit more just to give it, because it's quite a big cutting for that size pot. So that way the soil will secure it in there. Now we're going to give it a bit of a water. Oh, and I've left the water over on the bench, so just stay with me for a sec. Yep, just water it gently. Now I've got these sitting in a tray that I've recycled that had, I forget what it had in it. I think it might have had meat in it. something like that, or it might have had baked goods in it from the supermarket. Okay, so if you've got to buy things from the supermarket that are in plastic, at least try and see if you can recycle or reuse it for something useful, and this is the perfect way to use it. Now, cuttings, make sure that when you water them, that there might be a little bit of water on the bottom of your dish, but don't let it fill up and come up and sit up here, because cuttings will rot and die if you've got them sitting in water. It's nice if you can get those plant pot trays that have the holes in the bottom, so the water, it'll hold on to your pots, but the water can free drain out. But if you're using something that with a solid bottom like this, just make sure that they're not sitting in water all the time. So if they were in a free draining tray, I would water these every day and make sure that they're kept reasonably moist but not drenched. But since this is sitting in a tray that holds water, it's got a little bit of water on the bottom, the newspaper is going to wick that moisture up into your pots, so you could probably get away with watering these every 2 or 3 days. Just keep an eye on them so that they're not wet, but they are reasonably moist. And in a few weeks' time, we should be able to come back and hopefully we'll have some terrific little lily pilly plants to be planted on our farm. I've already done a tray of them and there's quite a few growing, but we need about 200 plants, so we're going to be planting up a storm in the next couple of weeks. Okay, thanks for listening to Constant Culture. Please subscribe, like, share with your friends, or look for us on Facebook, Constant Culture. See you later.